اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني. Okay, first of all, welcome to you all, okay, to all our guests from other universities, faculties, and departments. Welcome to our amazing teachers, okay, and especially our speakers today. And a special welcome for our students, because this study day is for you and only for you, okay? So we would like you to take benefits from all what the speakers are going to say today, so that you upgrade your skills in research methodology. And I think it is a crucial, necessary skill for every student, not only students, but for every researcher in every domain, either didactics or linguistics. So welcome again. We're going to start with our speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Bouzouina Ahmed, okay? He will be talking about research methods in didactic and linguistic studies, importance and implementation. By the way, Dr. Bouzouina is affiliated with the University of Yabas from Sidi Blabas, okay? So I would like you to be active listeners. Listen to understand, but not to respond. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. شكرا سيدي على هذا الترحيب. شكرا للمنظمين لهذا الملتقى. قبل أن أشرع في تدخل باللغة الإنجليزية لابد من مدخل للمدخل. حينما نتكلم عن منهجية البحث أو منهجية الدراسة، فثمة ما يسمى في علم المنهجية بالقطيعة الإبستيمولوجية. القطيعة الإبستيمولوجية، وهذا ما أدندن به كلما درست هذا المقياس. ماذا نعني بالقطيعة الإبستيمية أو القطيعة الإبستيمولوجية؟ أي أن لا بد على الطالب والباحث بصفة عامة أن يجعل حداً قطعياً بينه وبين المعرفة العامية وبين المعرفة المتخصصة. We should make something called a cutoff between the stupid knowledge and specialized knowledge. Stupid knowledge, when I read a research of one of you, I find I've been conducting that study adopting a quantitative approach يفهمها أي واحد. لما نقول تهجت المنهج الكمي، بين قوسين كلمة المنهج، لكن ما لا يفهمه العامي في دراستك based on X method، واعتمدت المنهج الفلاني. هنا يتميز الطالب والباحث عن العامي في هذه اللفتة. That's why my communication or presentation is going to speak about research methods in both disciplines, didactics and linguistic. So the importance and implementation. إشكالية, problem with students and scholars is how to implement, how to implicate the method and how to select the method in my study. Great. So I'm going to answer some particular specific epistemo methodological questions. The first is, what is a research approach and what is a research method. نعرف لأنه المصطلح فيه غبن على الطالب. المقاربة ليست المنهج. المقاربة ليست المنهج. An approach has never been a method. Second question is, what is a qualitative approach? Then quantitative approach. Then what derives from qualitative and what derives from quantitatives. Point out that I've been reading so many researches and studies of yours, and I'm always facing something called our study has been implemented through a quantitative or qualitative approach or method, not approach, method. And as supervisors, teachers, we consume that language. And in fact, we shouldn't have, and we shouldn't. Why? Because for the simple reason, and the unique one, the approach is not a method. The approach is not a method. Two, quantitative, and finding out that the school and the research has used only one measure, one simple measure, one archaic measure. استعمل أسلوب رياضي، أسلوب رقمي واحد، أسلوب كلاسيكي جدا اللي هو percentile and not percentage. تلقى الدراسة تاعو فيها 20% 60%. That percentile has never been at any case a quantitative orientation of your study. It is still qualitative. So, teachers and supervisors and examiners, all of those entities, academic entities, have to put an eye on students and researchers when conducting study. In what way? In its methodology. When I speak about methodology, of course, there's a common language in language departments, which is quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method, bracketed. منهج كمي، منهج نوعي، منهج المختلط. الكم لم يكن يوما منهجا وإنما مدخلا، والنوع لم يكن يوما. عليه نعرب لأنه ثقل المصطلح لازم like Jacques Derrida has revealed in one of his books the method. He said we have to, I've been talking about that, we have to deconstruct the concept into particles in order to reconstruct it methodologically and deeply. So, the main question of that is the concept qualitative and quantitative an approach or method? Contributory questions. To what extent the concept approach differs of the one of method? 2. How does a researcher design the study methodology conceptually and operationally? Conceptually and operationally. 3. What approach or and method for your problem? The approach analyzes something called the theory. When we speak about the approach, I'm going to work on the concept and how to study, investigate on that concept. The problem nature in the approach, we are going to find طبيعة الإشكال، طبيعة المتغير، طبيعة الظاهرة. 2. The operation method، المنهج العملي على المتغير. And 3. It is أساليب الدراسة. So what's going to decide It is the approach that's going to decide the sampling dimension, the tools dimension, and the method dimension. من يقرر أساليب الدراسة؟ المقاربة، هي المدخل هو اللي يقرر المعاينة، ويقرر أدوات وأساليب الدراسة، ويقرر منهج الدراسة. So, what is the approach? The approach is general. It is going to speak about the phenomenon in its the reverse triangle. It means from the most general into the most specific. It is a broad view. It's not refined. It's not refined. Then it engrosses multiple methods. In the what we call the approach, we may find 7 methods. في مدخل كمي نلقى 7 مناهج. في مدخل نوعي نلقى 7 مناهج. That's why I'm saying that it's totally different to each other. Then it's holistic and long-term. The approach starts from the first step of the study, from the stupidity of the phenomenon until the results discussed. And lastly, it's axiomatic. It's axiomatic, and axiomology is about how am I going to deal out with the phenomenon from the beginning until the end, conceptually and methodologically. Contrary to, the method is a plan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a plan. Then we're going to readapt the theoretical stimuli, what we call المثيرات النظرية، نطوحها وننزلها إلى الواقع تنزيلا منهجيا. It means I'm going to readapt what I have been reading, studying in the previous studies and literature review into in my own words, in my own tools. Then I've got to practice all the skills, and the content must be recovering the phenomenon, and I have to respect the order, chronology. So, since it's a plan, it should be procedural. And lastly, the results are going to be consistent and within the approach. I've been taking that extract from studies. The first one in didactics. Someone has been conducting a study on English at primary school, IFL teacher perceptions and practices from Mohamed Ibrahimi University. This study was designed by qualitative research approach, but we are not going to find what method have we used to investigate on the trait. Next to titling linguistics, investigating the use of the English language in Algeria, English Meeting Debate Club. In Moulai Maamri University, as previously stated, the present investigation advances the systematic integration or mixing quantitative and qualitative. What method has the scholars used in order to investigate on the phenomenon? We don't know. There have been approaching the study, yes, but method, it doesn't exist. So, scholars, researchers, and students, but particularly supervisors and examiners during the dissertation defense, should figure out that research design is absolutely not the research method. So the research design are plans and procedures for research that span the decision from broad assumption, as told before, to detailed methods of data collection and analysis. For example, and this is the way we should act out when dealing with methodology. In this study, we adopted the qualitative or quantitative approach in the process of deciding. Look out that the approach decides what? Deciding the research tools, collecting and analyzing the data, which is going to help interpreting the results and discussing the suggested hypothesis. All that within the approach. But the method, according to Sr. Kathri, the lead of methodology, it is an inquiry. The method is an inquiry into the nature of the reasons for and the consequences of any particular set of circumstances, phenomena, traits, concepts, meanings, or recorded just as they occur. So there are experimentally, it means quantitative, or recorded just as they are qualitatively. To simply and practically, research methods are specific procedures for collecting and analyzing data. How do we act off? We implemented, we write this in this study, we adopted, then we explain, we specify the method. Therefore, the most appropriate research method that could comply with the nature of the study, variables, is the descriptive analytical method, or descriptive correlational method, or quasi-experimental method, and so on. So the methods that belong to the qualitative approach. So we've got approach, qualitative, the method is descriptive, then the type, we've got analytical type, we analyze, qualitative, descriptive, analytical approach. 2, qualitative, descriptive, the content analysis, something that I've never seen in these stations of students in that department. يسموه منهج تحليل المضمون ولا تحليل المحتوى. When you're studying about speeches, why not this method? على مش هذا المنهج. When talking about books and textbooks, content, why not this method? Content analysis. Then we've got descriptive comparative method. When you want to compare between two traits, two phenomena, we have something called qualitative, descriptive, comparative method that allows you, this approach, allows you to want to make deep detail about the traits you are comparing to each other. Then we've got historical. For example, you want to speak about the history of English between the period of post-independence period, 62 to 78. So it is about historical method. Then we've got the survey. When you want to investigate a trait upon a large population, here we survey it. Then we've got, the last one is about, the case study. The case study in its nature is what? Is qualitative. Last doesn't bear statistics. If it bears statistics, it becomes quantitative, and we say here mixed method. Mixed method. And examples. How do we implement it? Yeah. So we've got in linguistics, for example, I've got the approach is qualitative. Then we've got the study investigating the psychological features of EFL learners in an environment characterized by violence and bullying. So figure out that we've got here some variables that are going to be born and adopted within the descriptive analytical study, analyzing the effect of violence and bullying on students' learning. The second is about studying the rhetorical style quality in the American political speech. The case of Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America. باغين ندرس الخطاب. اديت كعينة خطاب Donald Trump. So here, the most appropriate method is what? Is the content analysis. Why not? So, 3, for example, exploring the ability of children aged between 3-5, to second language acquisition. The case of the Algerian children. So here it's what? I've chosen a particular age. اختاريت عمر معين. So دراسة وصفية طولية. Cross-sectional study. In didactics, for example, deciphering the positive influence of games in teaching imperative mode in the middle stage. The case of Ibn Badis, for example, middle school. So here it's a case study. Then studying the teaching method of IFO between 60-79. It is historical. Good. Let me finish out with the following classification of quantitative. In quantitative, we figure out, or we distinguish between 4 different methods. I say method. Quantitative, descriptive method. Describing traits. Correlational. Describing the effect of X on Y. Quasi-experimental. It is cause and effect. Yes, the effect of water on the environment. So it requires what we call an experiment. And the last is typically experimental, medicine and psychology. I am not able to give examples since time is over, but here some points for the students. So we have to give the great importance to the practicability of dimensions of the issue of methodology, especially in these stations. Deal with a great deal and consideration with the issue of approach and method. 3, spot empirically and practically the difference between quantitative and qualitative approaches. 4, clarify the meaning of quantification of the quality. تكميم النوع. That is backed and shaped by the issue matter statistics, but never ever the percentile. Apply strictly in students, investigation, researchers, and dissertations. Thank you for being so long.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Bouzouina, for this insightful presentation that tackled what I call the hidden part of the iceberg, okay, dealing with the epistemological and axiological, or even maybe ontological foundations for any selection, for any methodological selection, okay? And I find it very important because sometimes we select a method, we select an approach, but we don't know why. And I think this would bring a sort of, to back up the rationale for any selection in terms of methodology, method, or approach, and clarifies conceptual differences between those 3, approach, method, or methodology, okay? Thank you so much, Dr. Bouzouina, okay? And now we move on to another presentation, another speaker. Is it okay for, yeah. Okay, another speaker. Dr. Fasla is going to deal with terminological notions for a more effective scientific research. Okay, so be active listeners. And don't forget to jot down any burning questions later on in debate discussion, okay? Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ahmed, I am honored to be here with you in order to share some of the contents I have been exploring in my academic journey. And today's intervention is entitled Terminological Notions for a More Effective Research. So before we start, I'd like to highlight the fact that some of the current students, Master 2 students, didn't have sessions with me during the second and third year. And unfortunately, we couldn't explore the abysses of terminology and translation. So I will try to focus on the importance of terminology in order to remind also the necessity to change an attitude when dealing with terms in your scientific research. So you Master 2 students especially are currently facing a double type of communication, two levels of communication. The first one is from an expert to an expert, because you aim at being an expert in your field, linguistics or didactics, but in the same time your dissertation will be addressed to future students. And what really matters is the precision of the terms and the concepts you are referring to in your research. So one of the main features of a scientific language or technical language is the significant amount of terms and concepts in comparison with general languages. In a scientific research process, any reader or any learner may face a relatively complex terminology that entails a different behavior in order to achieve a necessary understanding of a given scientific material and allow an effective communication pattern. Given the status of terminology in specialized languages and scientific research, this intervention aims at clarifying the concepts of terminology by stressing its importance and its implication for a successful research. Dr. Bouzouina has just highlighted the importance between the terms and the concepts. And of course, the understanding all along your research, all along your dissertation, all along your readings, you are conceptualizing, you are linking the ideas, you are linking the concepts, and on a material scale, those terms must represent the concepts you have in mind. And of course, the individual, the expert, the student, or the teacher who will read your dissertation must have the same references. Is it clear? So, those are three basic questions that I'm going to explore. What is terminology? Very briefly. What is the importance of terminology in scientific research, and how does it contribute to successful research? So terminology as a whole is a field of linguistics at the crossroads of many disciplines and many sciences. We find terms in electronics, we find terms in mathematics, we find terms in artificial intelligence. Whatever the field, we find a significant amount of terms. It's also, and that's really important, a normative and standardizing discipline. And those are the norms that you should follow in order to use the in order to refer to the terms in your dissertation. ISO 704/2022, constant update. ISO 860/2007, ISO 087/2019, ISO 1951/2007. So those norms or those standards are constantly being updated by the International Standard Organization in order to explore, understand, and establish the evolution of terms in many disciplines. And of course, you are currently dealing with linguistics and didactics, but it doesn't mean that other sciences are excluded. Okay? You can deal with psychology, you may deal with learning, you may deal with teaching, you may deal with electronics, databases, artificial intelligence, and all those terms also in other concepts, in other fields, must be used in your dissertation. Of course, there are two extensions to terminology. The first one is lexicography, that aims at designing and crafting dictionaries, and terminography, that aims at designing and crafting glossaries. By the way, there is a distinction between glossaries and dictionaries. Dictionaries collect the amount of lexical units of a language as a whole, and the glossary collects the amount of terms used in a specific field. Moving on. Let's focus on the subject and the purpose of terminology very briefly. So terminology aims at analyzing the concepts and the concept structures utilized in the field or area of activity. Identifying the terms assigned to concepts, there is a very let's say, strong bound between the term and the concept in scientific research. You can't use a term instead of the other one. You must use a term to reflect the exact concept that you have in mind. Creating correspondences between terms in different languages in the case of multilingual or bilingual terms. We will explore some tools for that. And also creating new terms in databases or compiling the terms on the paper, or databases managing terminology databases as required. The terminology as a science, as a discipline, as a craft also, aims at achieving effective and efficient communication in various areas of fields. So I would like you to focus on this simple mind map in order to start asking yourself, am I using the correct terms? Am I adopting this behavior towards the terms or the concepts I'm referring to in my dissertation? Do I really understand the link between the term I'm reading and the concept it should refer to? And can I establish the links between the concepts within the same paper or within the same book or within my dissertation? So Maria Teresa Cabri, a scholar in translation and terminology, highlighted the contribution of terminology in sciences. For linguists, terms belong to the lexicon of grammar and are specialized according to topical, pragmatic, and semantic criteria. Topical, field, the subject you're dealing with. Pragmatic, the use of those terms in this field. Semantic criteria, meaning. How do those terms produce the meaning? For special subjects, terms are means of professional expression and communication, a part of a system for representing the structures of knowledge within special areas. For translation, interpreting, and technical writing, terms are useful and practical units of communication which are evaluated by the criteria of equivalence, adequacy, precision, and economy. For linguist planning, terms are lexical units requiring intervention in order to support the existence, usefulness, and survival of a language as a means of expression. So, let's focus now on the terms, the nature of the terms. And you have here in front of you 6 features. Some of my current students, second year, are here, have just explored those notions or those features of the terms. Accuracy, brevity, clarity, objectivity, simplicity, and science diversity. All right? So picture this mind map and project it on your own dissertation. Do the terms that you are using right now have those features? Are you using the accurate terms? All right? Try to remember some words or some terms in your readings and project those criteria or those features on the terms you are currently using. You will be surprised. Now, terminology as a whole, as a science and as a discipline, is of a great importance in multiple sciences. The terms express scientific technical notions and belong to a certain field. They are the sign of a scientific notion as a unit of the scientific language. The term bears nominative and definitive function. There is a concrete definition in the area where the terms are used, and this definition is formed on the basis of the meaning that the notion expresses. The meaning of the term doesn't depend on the context. The meaning of a term does not depend on the context. They mean what they mean in their field, and that's it. The terms are inclined to monosemy, only one meaning in one field. The terms are neutral from the stylistic point of view. And finally, the terms are the units of the scientific style, which means once you start reading your dissertation, those terms must reflect those features. You start reading it, or the board of examiners, or your examiner, etc. So here are some examples of the misuse of some terms in various dissertations. All right? So, as I told you, here the term must reflect or must refer to one idea. Unfortunately, in many dissertations, some terms are used instead of the other one. As a result, an effective and efficient communication is not possible. How can I understand your intention? I'm not supposed to try to seek it. I'm supposed to find it and understand it directly. All right? So, efficacy is used sometimes instead of effectiveness. while they have two different meanings. Efficacy is the ability of an intervention to produce the intended effect under an ideal condition. The effectiveness is showing an effect in an average real-life condition. Moving on, incidence, prevalence, and occurrence are also used one for another, one instead of the other, in many dissertations, while they have different meanings. Incidence is the number of new cases of a characteristic or condition that develop in a population in a specific future time period. Prevalence is the proportion of populations that have the characteristic or condition during the time period, regardless of when it developed. And finally, occurrence is an event that happens without volition or plan or intention. Methods and methodology. Dr. Bouzouina highlighted the importance, the differences between the approach, the method, and the methodology. They don't mean the same thing, especially when scientific research or methodology is one of your units for an effective communication in your dissertation. Variability and variance. Variability measures the degree of spread in a data set. Variance is a measure of spread from the mean of the data set. Inquiry and investigation. An inquiry is seeking information to clarify doubts or ambiguity, while investigation seeks information to establish facts. And finally, yesterday I had an interesting conversation with one of my colleagues and about language policy and language plan. And we could establish at the end of that conversation that language planning represents the efforts made collectively in order to maintain or change their language, while language policy is the way of officializing a language constitutionally. And of course, you may find many other examples, because those terms, for a reason or another, look the same, seem the same, but they are not. Once you start dealing with specialized communication, with specialized languages, your behavior, your attitude should be different. You're not dealing with words, you're dealing with terms. So, here are some useful tools that you can use in order to compare, study, explore the terms that you are using. So, from the general to the more specific. Word reference is a platform where you can check the meaning and the multiple meanings of a word in English. Arab Term, a very interesting platform including 4 languages: Arabic, French, English, and German, and where you can find each specialized field split. All right. So if you want to do your research on psychology, so you explore the terms used only in psychology, and so on. Euroterm, it's a European database of terminology that collects and studies the evolution of terms all across Europe. Research, Termium Canada, same principle but in Canada. Research Connections, a platform also that collects and compiles the amount of terms used in medicine and also psychology. And finally, the International Standard Organization platform, where you can check constantly the evolution of those terms, if they are standardized, if they are unified in one language, and as a result, you can use them for the purpose of your communication, for the intended, and of course, to produce the intended impact. To conclude, I would say that terminology is an essential cross-disciplinary science and a discipline that organizes the use of terms, their collection, and their standardization. Terms are important components of specialized languages and research. Any researcher has to adopt a specific attitude in using them, as their functions within a given language differs from general lexical units. Any researcher is bound to punctual and long-term documentary research in order to grasp the common terms in a specific field and subsequently to build a conceptual knowledge that involves all types of relations. For example, causality, correlation, inference, etc. The appropriate use of terms in a specific field reflects a considerable degree of knowledge and conceptualization. All terms used by a researcher reveal the level of commitment and expertise for a given purpose. And finally, in research, a rigorous terminological approach is inherent to effective research, from popularization to expertise. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, we thank Dr. Fasla Bilel for this. Let's say what I like in his presentation is the follow-up that he made, okay? The connection with the former presentation by Dr. Bouzouina. And this is good, just to find the link and to find what you call the conceptual connection between all what has been said before and now. Yes, maybe he's right concerning the concepts and the terms, okay? And sometimes we ask one question, why, I mean, a lot of concepts exist and terminologies or terms that corresponds to the same concept maybe, okay? Sometimes you find the same concept but different terms that correspond to the same concept, okay? And I think it's because what is called a scientific egocentrism, okay? Sometimes you read a lot of terms, but they correspond to the same concept. And Dr. Fasla highlighted a very crucial thing, which is foundational in any research methodology, which is choosing the right concept and the right terminology. And be sure that you are opting for the right definition, because it is the cornerstone and the foundation for your research methodology, okay? Thank you so much, Dr. Fasla, for this insightful presentation. Okay, now I'm going to move to what I like in those presentations, that there's a link, okay? Now I'm going to move to research questions, okay, with Dr. Mahi Sofian from the University, Abdelhadi Mbadi's University, Umm okay? He's going to talk about exploring the characteristics and sources of a good research question, okay? So I think it's crucial for you students, okay, just to take notes and ask further questions. The floor is yours, Dr. Mahi. Maybe you have 10 minutes, is it?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. What shall I do? It's okay. So it's okay. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So here again, after 2 years of being out of the scene from this university, so here again I meet my colleagues, my ex-students. So nice to see you again. I hope I was not so long. So finally we have met. So I'm very pleased to meet you again, and I wish you all the best in your master degree. So my presentation, I'm going to be very brief because of my work obligations. So my presentation is entitled Exploring the Characteristics and Sources of a Good Research Question. So the fact that many students have difficulty in coming up with good research questions. So the problem is that many students, it means they are unaware of the fact that in order to get or to generate a good research question, I have to adopt some strategies and techniques to generate something which is empirical and testable. So after selection a topic of research that is both empirical and sociological. So I mean by sociological, something which is related to our society. So when you are doing a research, it means you are adding something to the society or doing something which has to do with our society. So, and deciding about the type of research, whether it is exploratory, descriptive, or explanatory. Generating a good research question is the departure point in any academic research, as it paves the way to smoothly move forward in the research process. So I mean by to smoothly move forward in the research process, it is to begin collecting data about the subject you are having in your mind. So what made me tackle this topic is that the fact that several undergraduate students and even postgraduate students feel stressful and confused when attempting to generate feasible and interesting research questions. So forward, I'm going to explain what does it mean feasible and interesting research questions. So this primarily stems from the state of being unaware. As I have already mentioned, that many students are unaware that when you want to generate a good research question, so you have to pass through many techniques, or you use many techniques to generate what is something which is or something that could be researchable and something that is testable. So one of the objectives behind tackling this issue is that to provide undergraduate students as well as novice researchers with techniques and strategies to generate good research questions. So the second objective is to rectify or correct some of or many of the misconceptions which our students held in their minds concerning generating a good research question. So one of the misconceptions here, number one, is to generate more questions than answer them. So when you read in any master degree, there are many students who generate more questions, but when you read the work, the whole work, you will find them answering only one or two questions. For example, if they generate 4 questions, when you read all the thesis or the dissertation, you will find them answering just 1 question. But even when they answer the question, they are not going to answer truly or answer the question appropriately, right? Or methodologically. The second misconception, is complex research questions generate good and satisfactory results. So here this is an advice or a piece of advice for our students. Don't generate a research question which is complex, because it's going to be difficult to deal with this question. Try to simplify things. Another misconception is undervalue question that has never been answered before. So many students, they don't give value to many questions that were not answered. They may claim the fact that these questions are not interesting to us. So we are not obliged, or we are not, for example, it's not compulsory to answer these questions. So what do? We are going to deal with questions that interest us more. Another misconception is that research questions that were not answered before are always interesting. For example, there are many students who find many questions, these questions were not answered before, are always interesting, something which many students fall in the trap of this misconception. So many questions or many research questions, they may seem irrelevant to you, or relevant to you, but when you want to answer them, so the result is going to be not what you have, for example, expected before doing your research process. So here I'm going to mention some of the characteristics of a good research question. Here I have focused on the main characteristic because we have multiple characteristics of a good research question. So the first one is that your research question must be interesting. So many students, they have this misconception that when you find an interesting research question, it means that the research question is interesting for you as a student. No. It means by interesting, it is the fact that this research question must be interesting to the community, right? To the scientific community, or people which are part of the scientific community and people who are going to value your work. Empirical, so your research question should be empirical. It should be based upon experimentation. Testable, so your work should be testable, something that you're going to test through quantification, or something that you're going to, for example, to change from a general, like Mr. Bouzouina said, from a stupid idea into something researchable, something that can be researchable. So your research question also must be well-founded and focused, because broad questions will make difficulty for you. Then your research question must be expressed in terms of a single variable or relationship between different variables. So many good research questions must be related to a variable or a group of variables. So here again I have also opted for the main sources of inspiration. So I mean by the sources of inspiration, it's what inspired me as a student to generate the research question that I'm interested in. One of them is general research ideas. So any research question starts with some general research ideas. So ideas which might be, for example, stupid or irrelevant to you. So from these ideas, I can generate a good research question. So we have informal observation. So through observing people's behavior, I can generate a good research question, especially in the field of psychology and in the field of social linguistics and dialectology. So we have practical problems. So here when I generate a good research question, so I'm going to ask myself if this research question is going to, for example, to generate solutions for problems, for example, in the field of education, in the field of health, etc. Then also one of the main sources which I consider the most important one, especially for our students, it is the previous research. It means I'm going to depend on previous research in a certain field of study. Then I'm going to choose the most appropriate, for example, sources. Then I'm going to generate my research question. So generating empirical and testable research questions. So empirical, it means based on observation and measurement. So my research question also should be testable, can be tested through experiment. So the appropriate strategy is to statistically conceptualize your ideas or change your ideas from just concepts or mere ideas into something related to a variable or a group of variables. So one of the features of a research question is interestingness. So your research question must be interesting. So the answer is in doubt. So when you want to choose a research question, so what you are trying to answer, I mean by this is the question. Don't try to select something that will make you satisfied. So just make or choose something that will make that will generate doubt for you. So from doubt I can generate other questions later. Then the answer fills a gap. So why, what does it mean fills a gap? It is that the research question must, for example, must answer some questions in the literature review, for example, in any field of study. So the answer has important practical implications in the literature review. So I have already explained the point here, practical implications. It means when I ask a research or generate a research question. So this question must, for example, suggest solutions to any problem in the scientific community. So we have feasibility. Also, it's a very important feature or characteristics in a good research question. So feasibility is related to time, right? So it is also related to financial resources, whether I have the needed financial resources, for example, to finish my research process. Also, it is related to equipment and materials. So this is what we lack in our Algerian universities. We don't have actually the needed equipments and materials. So the last one, it is access to research participants. So especially during the pandemic period, many of the researchers and undergraduate students have difficulty to access the population of their study. So as a conclusion, a good research is the outcome of good research questions that are feasible, empirical, interesting, and testable. Thank you for your attention. I hope I have respected the time given to me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mahi, for respecting, being punctual. Okay, for respecting time. Okay, that's good. Yes, this presentation tackled a crucial aspect, which is a research question. Okay, and tackled what I call the misconceptions and even the characteristics of good research question. So I think for you, dear students, especially M2 students who are, let's say, dealing with their dissertations, I would like you to have a sort of flashback and try to analyze and evaluate your research questions, whether they fit, whether they abide by those characteristics or not, okay? And I know it's a bit late because, you know, you have already started your research, but never mind, just to be reflective at least, okay? To have an idea about how to correct some misconceptions at the level of designing research questions. Okay, and now we're gonna move to, I don't know if, Miss Adda Sakran, well, where is she? Is she here? If not, we're going to move on to the next speaker. What? She's not here. Okay. So we're going to move to the next speaker. Dr. Kafi from the University of Khaldun, okay, Khaled. He will be talking about digital tools for academic writing, enhancing research efficiency, and something very, very good, because I expected that he was going to talk in French, but actually he's going to talk in English, okay? So this is good, amazing. And just to see how English is, overwhelming our university now, or even the Algerian context, okay? The floor is yours, Dr. Kafi.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My contribution is about involvement of digital tools in languages. So I apologize for any mistakes or errors. I try to do well because I am French teacher. I am not English teacher. Okay. We will now talk about the involvement of ICT digital tools in languages, especially in research. The digital literacy requires advocate three ability: to have ability to locate, select, and qualify information. The second is to have a critical ability in relation to the media and social network and network. The third ability is to have technical skills, means that everybody must master tools. Writing is a daunting task, requires knowledge of research methodology concepts, as well as proficiency in digital tools at every stage of the research process. And my contribution now is to show you which tools can we use in each stage of each stage of the research. Use the appropriate IT tools means improving work potential. What is the involvement of ICT? The aim is to see at what stage in the research process technology can be involved. What I can use it in each stage. For Colin, he gives 5 stages. Planning your research project, visualizing your thought, from idea to the document, to the writing document. Second, literature review. Everybody must compare his subject with previous research. And here we can use some of tools like documentary research software or document management software. In the first one, I have forgot to say that for planning your any idea or any research project, as you know, we can use mind maps, Xmind, View, etc. The third stage is data collection and quantitative analysis. I have participated to colloquium in 1916, and there is one researcher who have analyzed 20 years of speech, and without tools we cannot analyze any discourses. The fourth stage is the writing, and writing, as you know, all of us use software writing like MS Word, Google Docs, or writer of OpenOffice, writer of LibreOffice, and then the fourth stage is to disseminate of results and visibility. The researcher must also share his results. He must also make visibility to his research, and this requires also tools, digital tools, like ResearchGate, like Springer, Hirech, and that. The writing software also means respecting the writing standard imposed, dictated by institution and scientific journal requiring. I don't know if everybody knows that when we write document with MS Word, we have 2 kinds of documents. We have automated documents and we have normal documents. And now I will explain how we can get an automated document. I will focus on citation and referencing now. Why cite sources? And add value, develop skills, research skills, acquire know-how, demonstrate a sense of professional ethics, and also make it easier for the reader to locate sources. When we want to cite, we have many fields, many domains. And as you see, we have APA, Chicago, Scholar, MLA, Cherubin, etc. And the importance of all this style of citation is what can I choose? I don't know if some teacher force their students to choose APA. Why APA? Why MLA? Why ISO? So choose a reference style needs to follow the guidelines of the required style guide. Different academic disciplines use their own style guides, such as MLA, APA, and Turabian. The question I have often asked, have asked a writing guide? If we haven't, why force the student, our student, to choose APA or MLA? The problem isn't here. The problem is in the content, in the methodology, in the research, to choose survey, to choose quantitative, to choose qualitative survey. This is the problem. My role is to show students, is to teach students how can use digital tools in this stage of research process. When they write dissertation and thesis, they must use digital tools to enhance, to improve their potential work. And the first software all of us use is MS Word. The question is, can you differentiate between automated document and normal document? And when we use MS Word and make it automatically, we can get an automated document. So, we must know that when we want to cite, we must use automatic citation. And in the word here, I don't know if it's clear or no, we have references in the word, and we can add new sources, and you can fill a form, and in the end we can automatically insert the citation style. And at the end of the document we can insert automatically the references. So the problem, if I choose IPA style or MLA style, it will be so easy to change from one style to other style quickly in a few seconds. So we have a field, we have just to fill the form. For me, the problem isn't the filling, is to differentiate between book chapter, book section, digital book, article of journal, article of review. This is the problem. Does our students make differences between these sources? Okay, if we know, we can fill it easier. The second tools, when we want to make citation and referencing, is to choose management software. I don't know if all of you know management software. I give you some tools. The most popular, Zotero, Adnot, and Mendeley. I have already worked with Zotero and Mendeley. I think these are the best one. It's free. Maybe for Mendeley, you need to have an account. This management software, the title is management software. And when we say management software, the big difficulties for the researcher is to memorize the site, he memorize the article, he memorize the book, he memorize, and especially for Zotero and Mendeley, he track the researcher. And he memorize everything you get for your research. Also with the management software, we can collaborate with our sources. That means if I have some sources and you have some sources, we can exchange our sources. The last one for the students, if you don't know how to cite, you have just to use online citation generator. I have give you some tools. Scribe is the best one. CiteFast, BibMe, There are free online sites that allow you to quickly create citation and bibliographies. And when we use these sites, for me it's software. For me it's software. For you it's a site. You can quickly fill the form and get quickly the citation and the referencing at the same time. To conclude, I will say that technology doesn't replace the researcher, but supports his work or her work. Thank you.
Okay, really amazing. Amazing. I know that you have understood everything, okay, what he was saying in English, okay? And this is a sort of evidence that what is crucial in any communication is meaning. It's not about grammatical mistakes or lexical use or anything, but meaning. Whether the communicative message has been communicated, conveyed or not. And I think you've gotten the message, okay? Concerning what he was talking about, now we are in the digital age, and I think everyone at our level, whether researchers or students or teachers, okay, whatever the specialty we are in, we should be digital literate by a hook or a crook, okay, to facilitate our work, to facilitate our research methodology, and even in academic writing and so on, okay. You've been listening to some new concepts at the digital level, okay, some maybe websites, some softwares that can facilitate the work for you, especially in citation. And I think we have a problem in citation, whether it's APA or MLA and so on, okay? And I think if you are well versed and well skilled in using those softwares, it will be so easier for you, to cite accurately and appropriately. Thank you so much, okay? Now we move to another speaker. I think, yeah, okay. Something special about this presentation is that it's my cup of tea, okay? So we welcome Dr. Sahli Naima from the University of Khaldun, Tiaret. She'll be talking about the reflective diary as a research tool in the language classroom, a means of teachers' self-assessment and change, okay? So be active listeners and try to see, because something new I think for you, just to how to use the reflective diary and reflection in the first place. So the floor is yours, Dr. Sahli. Okay, waiting for Dr. Sahli's presentation, I would like to highlight those students who have any burning questions. And you know what is meant by burning questions, okay? So we don't want just dead questions, but what they call thought-provoking questions, okay? So please, if you've got any questions during the discussion debate, I would like you to come here, to the stage and you ask your question, okay? Because we are live. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome my colleagues and my students of Masters to Didactics of English as a Foreign Language. So my presentation is going to be about the reflective diary as a research tool in the language classroom and means of teachers' self-assessment and change. Of course, the inspiration for this topic comes from my experience as a teacher and a graduate from the High School for Teachers. So before being a researcher, I'm at heart a teacher and a believer in change. When we speak about research methodology, what I believe in is that a teacher has the ability to make a change on a daily basis, particularly because my specialty is formative assessment and assessment for learning in the writing classroom. So the inspirational figure for the research study is John Dewey. John Dewey is an American philosopher who believes in reform and in the relationship or the correlation between schools and the ability of schools in making a change in civil society. What I mean by this, he has this idea that if we want reformation in any society, we should develop and help the students grow so that we can have successful future citizens. So in his view, teachers have the ability, of course, to construct and reconstruct, let's say, knowledge from experience in the classroom. So he has said that practitioners, researchers have the ability, let's say, and a role in the process of living through continuous reconstruction of experience. It is the development of all those capacities in the individual which will enable him to control his environment and fulfill his possibilities. That is why in this very respect, as a researcher, I take into account and I pinpoint the importance of what we call action research and not case study, in my opinion. Because as I have said that teachers have the ability, of course, to make a change through reflective practice and daily inquiry in their practice, in their performance, and even in the performance of their students on a daily basis in the language classroom. So in this very respect, before moving to the diary as a data collection method, of course, we need to understand that the diary as a reflection, let's say, tool and a research method it does belong to what we call action research. So in this respect, we need to identify and to know the meaning of action research, which is not an omnipresent methodology in our universities in the Algerian context, partly because it needs, let's say, trial on a daily basis. It needs a commitment from teachers, and it needs a constant, let's say, reconstruction of experience through research, data, let's say, collection, addressing problems, and of course starting the cycle, let's say, all over again on a daily basis. So here, according to Whitehead and Magnif, when we speak about pedagogical action research, here we need to understand that teachers also can be researchers in their classrooms. That means that teachers should also be empowered in order to address issues, problems, and challenges in their classrooms. Even from a very simple encounter, they can of course identify an issue and then design a whole study and address it, and of course for the benefits of themselves as teachers, and of course engaging in self-development, and at the same time of course to improve, to advance their students' active learning, so that we can have later on the opportunity of helping the students to be lifetime learners and autonomous learning in given societies. So according to Bassi, action research is mainly about a critical endeavor toward reflection and at the same time towards, let's say, inquiry. This combination between reflection and inquiry can result in making a change or a reform. Of course here, when in very simple words, this reform cannot be, for instance, a very, let's say, long-term objective. It can be a short-term objective, working on a given skill or working on, let's say, difficulty that the students may encounter in their classrooms. It can be, for instance, for addressing reform at the long, for instance, term. It can be, for instance, working on formative assessment or self-assessment, which can, for instance, be a longitudinal study. Or it can be, for instance, choosing in, let's say, an issue in the classroom, and it can be, of course, the endeavor in this respect to improve the practice of the teaching in the language classroom. Or, for instance, action research can have the objective of professional action in this respect, that so the teacher can engage, of course, in opportunities about developing their practice or their skills in the language classroom. So according to Smith and Magnif, action research is about living the experience. That means that the language classroom is a landscape which is full of possibilities and opportunities, of course, to have or to engage in what we call self-discovery. That means that the teacher, when he is encountered with the problems and issues and weaknesses in his own practice, he can face his own fears and address his own fears. So, in this very respect, when we speak about action research, in the words of Magnif, she was inspired by Noam Chomsky and his book, Knowledge of Language, 1986. So in this respect, Magnif and Whitehead, 2001, they believed that a teacher can construct his own knowledge. What we mean by constructing his or her own knowledge is that teachers can engage in criticizing themselves. This part is very important to me, because since I was a teacher at high school, of course we had inspectors. So the inspectors are supposed to be our guide and our coaches. However, at university we don't have this opportunity, and at the same time, of course, we can engage in our own inquiry about the self into the self. She has put this sentence: action research is about an inquiry by the self into the self. That means that, in other terms, you can be reflecting on your own performance, identifying your own weaknesses and addressing those weaknesses openly and objectively. Even if you have, let's say, some weaknesses, a teacher can address those weaknesses through research. That is why she has said that we can move from E-theory, sorry, here it is external E-theory, not I-theory. It is the, let's say, the shift from E-theory to I-theory. That means that a teacher can criticize himself or herself in order to bring improvement and change into their practice or the practice of learning of their students. That means that a teacher sometimes can be criticized by an outsider source, which is sometimes the inspector or other colleagues, into focusing on himself, on herself, and being the criticizer of himself and herself, of course, for the sake of improvement. So in this very respect, the engagement in reflective inquiry about attitude, performances, and values and aspirations. That means that a teacher can be, let's say, in a position to be the expert self. I will just give you an example at this very stage. For instance, I have undertaken a study about the inquiry by the self into the self when I dealt with the implementation of formative assessment in the writing classroom, in which of course I reflected on my own experience as a teacher of the writing skill and how we implement student self-assessment in the writing classroom through the writing process. And here of course when I reflected on myself, I was so open-minded, because according to John Dewey, when you are in this position of engaging in an inquiry by the self into the self, the teacher or the practitioner researcher should have three characteristics. The first characteristic is that the practitioner researcher should be open-minded. The second one, he should have the ability to plan and execute the planning, and at the same time evaluate and of course restart again. And then the third one should be commitment, because 2 minutes only. I'm just start. So in this very respect, the teacher of course can evaluate himself or herself. So in this very respect, I openly criticized myself, and I have found, for instance, that when I teach writing openly, I dominate the speech. This was the first, let's say, outcome of my reflection using a reflective diary. I found out that I was dominating the speech when I teach. Since I was a novice teacher, of course, because this was at the outset of being a teacher of the writing skill at university. The second outcome of my reflective diary was that I used a lot the word, have you understood? Yes. So instead of using the word have you understood, I could have used, let's say, formative assessment practices or activities in order to check the students' understanding, so that I can highlight their weaknesses and of course advance their strengths. The third thing that I have noticed is that when it comes to the engagement of the students are not engaged, since we don't implement what we call formative assessment. That is why I opted for the writing process, since the writing process has the ability, of course, into making the students practice the whole stages of the writing, let's say, process, the brainstorming, the while writing or the drafting, and then of course the revision. And at the same time, of course, through giving them checklists, they could identify their weaknesses. And one theme is that I could, let's say, make a comparison between my own assessment and the students' assessment or self-assessment. So just by moving to the validity of action research, which is different from that of a case study, because when we speak about action research, the validity is different. So the first, let's say, objective of action research when we speak about validity is that we need to generate new knowledge. What we mean by generating a new knowledge is that you need to have to address an issue that you can identify in your classroom, and then of course you should address it to create new knowledge. The second one, we speak about democratic validity. When you deal with action research, you need to be in a position in which both parties are very important. The party of the teacher as an insider, and at the same time, of course, the participation of the students. That is why when we choose any topic to address in action research, it should be transformative and it should be an ongoing, continuous, recurrent topic, not static one. The third one should be about the process. That means that when we address action research, we need to see the process of planning, let's say, the action. We need to see action to move from, of course, the first step, which is observing, then acting. After acting, of course, we need evaluation. Then, of course, we need to address the problem and find the remedy. And then, of course, we need to start over. Because when we speak about action research, as I have said, it is about commitment and making efforts, of course, to design every single day, to design a new plan to address given issues. And then, of course, we need to have an outcome by the end of the implementation plan. And, of course, the final step should be about the education of both the practitioner researcher, because by the end of the, let's say, the execution of the intervention plan, the teacher should, of course, identify the points of development and growth and self-development, and at the same time, of course, we need to see the outcome of the intervention plan. That means that we need to see an improvement in the students' either behavior or learning or performance. And of course, if we can reach this stage, according to Wolf, that means that the university teacher or the practitioner researcher has reached what we call the outcome stage. That means that there is a combination between an inquiry, reflection, and of course the ultimate change. So this is my presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, we thank Dr. Sahli.
سمير
I reiterate, please, I reiterate. Okay, we thank Dr. Sahli for her presentation concerning a very crucial topic, which is reflection. And I think on a regular basis, we learn from reflection. We learn from moving back and forth between action and thought. Okay? Our life is made or is full of experiences, and we construct knowledge from those experiences, from our reflection of those experiences. We abstract from those experiences. This way we learn. And concerning teaching and learning process, we as teachers, we develop and we change and we improve our methodologies on the basis of our reflection. We reflect on our actions and we reflect during action, what you call inaction. So this way we can improve our teaching methodologies and approaches, and of course for the benefit of our students and for the benefit of learning. Now we move to let's say co-presenters, okay, Dr. Berrabah and Dr. Toubida from our university, from Ibn Khaldun University, Tiaret. They will be talking about topic brainstorming and research proposal drafting, anxiety challenges and feasible solutions. Okay, the floor is yours, both of you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. أما بعد, first I would like to welcome the audience, including of course teachers, our colleagues, of course the students and all the audience. So without delay I am going to speak about or to start my or our presentation in collaboration of course with my partner Dr. Toubida, which is entitled topic brainstorming research proposal drafting. So we are going to speak about anxiety challenges and feasible solutions. So of course before getting started I would like to brainstorm the topic. So I am going to refer to, of course, together in a different way with my previous colleagues, Dr. Fasla Bilel, concerning when he spoke about terminology and the importance of concepts. I would like to refer to two basic concepts. Mainly, the first one is that of research, and before speaking about the research from a purely linguistic point of view, I am going to refer to the concept originality, since the term originality is somehow misunderstood by many students, since they may say that I have an original topic. So you have to bear in your mind that originality doesn't mean that you are going to bring something new or something that has never been dealt before, but you are going just to regenerate certain theories and context, certain theories and of course models or approaches that have been conducted of course in a place or in another world, and which you are going to adapt it in the context where your study will be taken a place. The second one is that of the term research. So concerning originality, you have to bear in your mind that originality doesn't mean that you are going to bring something new, since the term itself, if we come back to the term from a purely linguistic point of view, it is preceded by the inflectional bound morpheme re. That is to say, here we speak about research. Search, that is to say, you are going to make your research and you are going to regenerate and you are going to apply, or you are going to test something that have been, for instance, done in another context, for instance in the United Kingdom or in the United States or America, an approach that was formulated in another context, and you are going to regenerate it of course, and you have to put it in your context. And of course without going to come back to definitions of the term research, since I think that definitions for me are useless, since there are many definitions for the term, or there are thousands of definitions, and sometimes we teach our students just definitions without focusing mainly on the research itself. Of course, what were the things that attracted me, of course, after citing or after examining many research, is that of the last one, the last definition of the so-called Albert Einstein, when he said that if you knew what we were doing, it couldn't be research. So if we know at the early beginning what we are going to do, so this is not a research, because the research can be changed, or we say the research can be changed at any time, of course, within doing your research. So here the second main step is that I am going to make a clear distinction between a topic and a research. So the difference between them, between choosing a topic and a research. So you have to bear in your mind that the topic is somehow general and very broad, that needs what is called to be specified, which is always regarded as being research. As being an introduction, of course, in between starting a research and of course finalizing what is called the final draft, or we say research work, of course there are a series of procedures that should be taken by any beginner researchers, since he studied 5 years, which corresponds to 9 semesters of research methodology, and of course even he studied 9 semesters of research methodology, he falls in what is called a stress-related research, and he may be, of course, he may lose self-confidence even before getting started his research. And of course, this is why, upon noticing that there is a problem at the level of identifying the topic, how he is going to deal with his topic, this is why our presentation, of course, tries to refer to the different phases that any students may follow to convince others that he has a worthwhile topic or research project to be dealt with. So the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. So before getting started, students, of course, can or may select what is called an interesting, original, actual topic. So this can be done through many ways. The first one is that of narrowing down the topic. The second one, a precise concept related to your topic, problems identification and prioritizing certain problems, and discussing ideas about a topic with experts and taking notes. And the last one can be outlining and organizing your ideas. So this is what is called topic brainstorming. So now, how you can come up with an original or just a topic. So in order to come up with a topic, so before coming back to journals and looking for ideas in journals and books and so on and so forth, the researcher must have what is called an introspection. That is to say, a sort of intuition. He must observe, of course, the world around him in order to perceive, for instance, a phenomena that is, of course, worth to be dealt with, and we can apply it on reality. And of course, as he must skim and scan, of course, and make a list of words, concepts that come to his mind about the books and the references maybe he has checked. Of course, how you can narrow, or how can the researcher can narrow his topic? Of course, there must be, or he must answer himself a series of questions, including who, what, when, where, why, how, what shall I do, and so on and so forth. So this is why he must also ask himself in what ways should I tackle my topic, in what kind, what causes, what are the expected effects, what are the reasons, what are the steps, what are the influences, what are the similarities, and what are the differences that may be found as far as, of course, the previous research concerns or the previous research are concerned. So there are many characteristics. There are many characteristics of a good research. Now I am going to leave the floor to Dr. Toubida to say something about the characteristics of a good research. Yes, Dr. Toubida, the floor is yours. Do you need the mic?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, my dear colleague, Dr. Berrabah. Just as a follow-up to this important topic concerning the choice or the selection of the title, exactly and you see the difference between the two, I just want to make it simple that the choice of the topic or the title is as important as buying a house in real life. And I will tell you the truth or the difference between the two. So just make the difference between the two. Someone who let's say bought a land and he consult the architect and he designs the plan or the layout of the house, and someone who, let's say, got or just bought a ready-made house. So here the difference too. The first one, it is his choice. He is always involved initiatively in everything, the color, the design, and everything. And the second one, maybe he will regret his choice, and because this is your personal effort, investigation, research, whatever, or personal touch. So the same thing for the choice. For master students, through our experience, we see تسمعوا هذيك تاع breaking news مرات that week, the first week of September, just through my contact with my colleagues in the specialty team, we find like it's a breaking news for choosing a title. Everyone is running behind the choice of the title, lost, and what to do, what basis, and here there is a gap. And this gap, some students, they say that any title can be chosen for research. So that's why here because of the time, the importance of this topic, you see that maybe both doctors, both teachers, they are working on this topic, not only two. If it is possible, I think all the teachers of the department, they work on the choice of topic, and they don't end up with finding something that can be suitable for our master students. But I will try to be more, let's say, practical, give you some hints on the characteristics and giving advices or guidance through my, let's say, simple experience. We have the first one, which is, just move on there, when we talk about feasibility. Feasibility, it is simply, we mean practicality or practical topic. But sometimes we take it for granted and we feel lost. So I give you examples so that you can follow with me. Sometimes, let's say, a topic like the use of caricature in, let's say, in the middle school to, let's say, to teach, for example, speaking or English. Here, this is feasible topic for us when we say, yes, we can use caricature to teach English, speaking, or whatever skill. But later, when we start investigating it, we will face problem is that maybe pupils at the level of middle school, they don't have those higher order skills to work on this topic, because caricature needs someone with a higher order skills, not a lower order skills. And here we will find the gap with the sample. See, the topic is very interesting, maybe novelty, maybe all the characteristics, but there is something missing, which is here related to the context. This is all, they are all interrelated. For example, if you move to, let's say, the topic like investigating the task-based approach in Algeria. It's a very interesting topic. We have the quality of novelty, interesting, relevance, everything. But feasibility is not available here in this topic. Why? Because this approach hasn't been yet applied in Algeria. And where you will make your investigation. This is another problem too. So sometimes we may, I found in many titles, in many dissertations, they are qualified to be like feasible or interesting, but in fact, no. When we use such factors, so in fact, no. We are just, as I told you that someone who bought that house, but is just following someone's, let's say, opinions or attitudes. The second one, I just want to be, there are many examples, but because of time, I'll be just very brief. Interesting, the very simple example from here, from this, let's say, amphitheater. I believe, and I hope not our presentation, or even sometimes we are faced when we watch TV or just in like study days or conferences, we find titles, and when we attend or when we watch the movie or we open the book we read, we feel that it's kind of frustration. Why? Because we got not frustrated, but let's say tricked by the title. And here this is the importance of choosing a good title. Because the audience, they may feel frustrated because of you. It happened to me in many presentations in study days. I get, attracted by the title, but when I attend, then I see that through the content, something out. And here is the importance of, even in dissertations, we as experts sometimes when we read, we find the title is very, very important, very interesting, very attractive. But when we come to how they are investigating the title, it's something else. I know that I told you that this topic, it needs, much time, but then we go directly to the novelty. The novelty also very important, but you have to know, some they believe that when we say novelty, we are meaning here by novelty something that never done before. No. But you have to add something to the existing result or different context. I give you example here. When we say the novelty, but sometimes you are tricked. Some of my students, they told me we can work, so what about the topic like teaching literature through online learning? Or maybe linguistics or grammar, whatever. It's a very good topic, very interesting one. I myself approved this topic at the very beginning. Because what? It's a novelty one, interesting one. But when it comes to feasibility, no. You see why? Because here in Algeria, we cannot teach, we don't teach online. We don't, the students, they are not using those online platforms, and they are used only as assistant teaching material. So that's why here your case study won't be, let's say, that valid and reliable to make your case study. Then the last one, which is ethical and very important this one, because it happened in many cases. We got some dissertations or theses, and they are working on something which is not ethical. For example, if you come to study that language of the LGBT here in the Algerian, let's say, Muslim context, it is true that in Western countries they study this one, but here, when it comes to the ethical, the cultural, ethical context, it's not feasible to do it. Okay? Also, sometimes when we talk about relevance, which is the last one, and I'm sorry, I know that, which is the last one, the relevance. Also, the relevance is very important for the audience and for the researcher. And I give you examples here. Let's say I come across dissertation studying the language of Hirech, for example. Yes. For example, here in Hirech, for the context of didactic and linguistics, it's a nonsense. Why? Because here at the end, what? when we are doing such dissertations, we have to add something to the department or to the profile or the didactic and linguistic profile of students or the research context. Okay, yeah. Also, if I say, for example, relevance, some dissertation, an analytical study or a comparative study between the blackboard and the whiteboard on students' effects on student performance. I think also here the criteria of relevance is not here, let's say, respected in such title. Why? Because we are here in 2024 at this time. Yes, yes, yeah. So it's not that relevant to make that effort and okay to see the difference between the white. We are in time now of the screen. So this is one. There is no relevance in such topic. Also, there are, I think, relevance like topics related to such study day, let's say, topic or title. For example, we come investigating students' problems or constraints or hurdles in, let's say, forming or questioning or making questions and research questions exactly. This is a good one that can take, for example, the relevance, the feasibility, the novelty, the interest, and all those criteria. Whatever I talk about, the choice of the topic and the characteristic is just, let's say, very, very little. Again, I give the floor back to my partner, and I'm sorry for, let's say, this not enough.
Mr. Dr. Youcef, I beg your pardon, just give me just 2 minutes in order to finish my presentation. So, write what matters. If you don't care about what you are writing, neither will be your reader. So concerning the very early beginning of any research can be best represented by what is called, of course, or the audience or students become lost and don't know what is going to be. So of course they have to convince their audience that they have a worth topic to be dealt with. Of course, the audience including supervisors, classmates, and other researchers. So the second one is that of the content that should be well precise and concise. So in order to attempt to refer to the most important parts, of course, of their research topic, the parts that needs to be stressed. Of course, this is what is called research proposal. So without coming back to the different elements of the research topic, the research proposal, including the title, the abstract, the introduction, and so on and so forth. So this is what is called, since the students have to prepare or have to write at the very early beginning a research proposal in order to convince first their supervisor, and in order to show at least that they have understood something even before getting started working on it. So a good research writing is careful exploring and clear thinking made it visible. As a conclusion, students, so in order to brainstorm any topic and in order to getting started writing a research problem, so students have to take time to observe the surroundings, generating innovative ideas, and craft a well-structured research proposal as the quality of researchers' scientific knowledge that can be anticipated through his or her research proposal. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, we thank both speakers for this insightful presentation concerning the choice of topic. Again, we are still in the dilemma of conceptual or conceptualization, okay? Sometimes we don't make the difference between topic and research problem and so on, okay? and sometimes even we miss the procedures and how to proceed concerning selecting or opting for the appropriate and the accurate topic. Okay, now we move on to another speaker, Dr. Abu Bakr Abed, okay, concerning his presentation, which is in Spanish. And by the way, I'm going to try to, well, to pronounce it in Spanish, okay. And, well, the topic is Del ojo a la pluma, explorando el proceso de investigación desde la observación hasta la redacción. Okay. So, well, it concerns observation. Okay, observation, the key and the cornerstone of any research, what you call the ignite the powder keg of any research. Okay, yeah. The floor is yours, Dr. Abu Bakr. Okay.
Non, c'est bon, c'est bon. Bon, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين السادة الأساتذة طلبة الكرام ضيوف مرحبا بكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. المداخلة تاعي تكون على الملاحظة، لأني لاحظت طلبة السنة الثانية ماستر دائما يجي ويقول لك باللي باش نبدا ولا راني حاصل ولا ما فهمتش كيفاش ولا الموضوع تاعي، لهذا نبداو نهضروا على observation الملاحظة. الوغ ومن بعد اي كاش واحد يحتاج ترجمة ولا باللغة العربية رانا هنايا بعد نكملوا من المداخلة. Pues muy buenos días a todos, apreciados colegas, apreciados estudiantes. El título de mi comunicación está el del ojo a la pluma, explorando el proceso de investigación desde la observación hasta la redacción. Entonces, del ojo a la pluma, o sea, de la observación hasta la redacción del trabajo. Pues como una pequeña introducción, tenemos todo el proceso de grado, postgrado, culmina con un trabajo científico que constituye una investigación científica, que es un proceso para el cual se enfrentan y se resuelven problemas en forma planificada y con una determinada finalidad. La problemática consiste, bueno, qué es investigar y cuál es la diferencia ahora entre observación y observar. Observar como punto de partida y observación. Y tú, Nasri, ahora estás con nosotros sobre la diferencia que está, o bien la diferencia que existe entre observar y observación. Ya está. Y observar como técnica de investigación. ¿Y qué pasos han de seguir los estudiantes para llevar a cabo un trabajo de investigación? Así que yo me refiero a la observación como punto de partida para que el estudiante no se pierda. ¿Ya? Eso es. Luego, como un marco teórico y un enfoque para ver la concepción de investigar, entonces investigar pues es hacer diligencias necesarias para descubrir algo. Y también investigar es una actividad encaminada a la solución de problemas. Su objetivo consiste en encontrar respuesta a pregunta mediante el empleo de procesos científicos. Y también investigar es transformar el conocimiento. Es decir, en el trabajo de investigación, sea memoria de máster, tesis de doctorado, artículo, hay una interacción continua entre los dos ámbitos, ámbito del conocimiento y ámbito del discurso. Esta interacción continua permite transformar el conocimiento del tema en un proceso de aprendizaje continuo. Luego pasamos directamente a la diferencia que está entre observar y observación. Muy bien. Entonces, observar, este tipo de observación es informal, que se hace al principio. Por ejemplo, hemos observado en una introducción. Hay, por ejemplo, problemas respecto al resumen. El profesor de metodología me enseñó a lo largo del curso cómo se debe hacer un resumen. Y luego yo, cuando leo un artículo, encuentro al contrario. Entonces, hay una diferencia. El resumen ya obedece a normas teóricas o no. Entonces, es observar este tipo de... es informal, ¿ya? Puede proporcionar ideas iniciales o hipótesis, problemática y objetivos para orientar una investigación más rigurosa. Y luego pasamos a la observación como técnica de investigación. Puede ser utilizada en diferentes enfoques, como la observación participante o la observación estructurada, y se busca obtener datos confiables y válidos para respaldar los objetivos de investigación. Ahora nos quedamos en la primera parte, observar, que es el punto de partida de cualquier trabajo de investigación. Entonces, ahora yo he observado que el estudiante estudia 5 años, 3 años en licenciatura, 2 años en máster, pero cuando el profesor le solicita que elija un trabajo de investigación para su memoria, el estudiante no sabe qué tema tiene. Entonces el estudiante está perdido. En este caso, ¿qué va a hacer? Va a hablar con el director de su memoria, o bien tiene que copiar otro trabajo, o bien tiene que copiar el título, y entonces estará perdido. Ahora tenemos lo que se llama problemas de investigación, ¿verdad? Lo que engendra, lo que provoca problemas de investigación. Ahora, ¿qué pasos ha de seguir para llevar a cabo un trabajo, digo yo, de investigación válido? O sea, ¿qué procedimientos sigue el estudiante para que no se pierda? ¿Ya está? Muy bien. Ahora pasamos al proceso de investigación. El proceso de investigación desde la observación, luego elección del tema, cómo buscar bibliografía y tomar notas, y cómo se redacta al trabajo. Muy bien. Ahora tenemos lo más importante después de la observación, es elección del tema. ¿Por qué? Primero, la observación te permite delimitar el tema. Con el profesor doctor Benabed, una vez me acuerdo muy bien, hablábamos de esto, cómo delimitar el tema de investigación. Por ejemplo, yo quiero trabajar sobre la universidad, yo quiero trabajar sobre la enseñanza media o bien la enseñanza secundaria. El español se enseña en la enseñanza secundaria, el aula de L, un manual de tercer curso, puertas abiertas. Se trata de una delimitación del tema. ¿Ya? Por ejemplo, estoy hablando de la competencia comunicativa en la enseñanza superior, pero ¿cuándo y dónde? Por ejemplo, en el marco del sistema LMD, o bien en el marco del sistema anterior, lo que se llama el sistema clásico. ¿Ya? Luego tenemos las preguntas iniciales. Hay preguntas cuando ya el tema ya está elegido, ya está limitado. Entonces, hay preguntas. ¿Qué es, por ejemplo, investigar? ¿Cómo investigar? ¿Qué se hace? Etcétera, etcétera. Son preguntas, digo yo, introductorias. Y luego tenemos especificar el tema por escrito. Tenemos que escribirlo para que uno no lo olvide. Pasamos al tercer paso, que es muy importante también, cómo buscar bibliografía. Este aspecto que está, digo yo, descuidado por muchos y no saben cómo funciona la biblioteca. La primera cosa que hay que hacer es ver cómo funciona la biblioteca. Luego, familiarizarse con revistas en Google, en Internet, etc. Y selección de lecturas. Lo más importante, el estudiante ha de leer para que saque lo más importante. Y luego, la bibliografía, que es muy importante, cómo tomar notas, copiar fragmentos de lectura y cómo hacer el esquema de trabajo, que el esquema es muy importante en cualquier trabajo de investigación, lo que se llama el índice. Ya pasamos ahora a cómo se redacta el trabajo. Algunas sugerencias, digo yo, escribir con la primera persona del plural nosotros, pour éviter ce qu'on s'appelle en français le jugement de valeur. Entonces empleamos el nosotros, no el yo. Luego, ¿por dónde empezar a escribir? El estudiante muchas veces está perdido en su trabajo de investigación. Entonces, ¿qué tiene que hacer? Empezamos por alguna parte del cuerpo del trabajo y dejamos para al final la introducción y las conclusiones, porque nunca se empieza con la introducción y el desarrollo y no está. Luego, las citas literales, aquí me refiero a APA, cómo tenemos que citar a los autores y cómo tenemos que citar al texto, como lo que se llama la cita narrativa directa, la cita narrativa indirecta, etcétera, etcétera. Y luego, donde se ponen notas al pie, lo que también he observado a lo largo de las defensas de memoria de máster, que no hay notas de pie de página para explicar al lector. Sobre todo tenemos a profesores de didáctica, profesores de literatura, que están presentes y no saben, por ejemplo, tal concepto, tal autor, tal fecha. Entonces las notas de pie de página se usan siempre para explicar, para enriquecer, para añadir, etc. Entonces tenemos el marco metodológico, es una pequeña investigación. Entonces presentamos el corpus con el fin de realizar nuestra investigación sobre cómo se lleva un trabajo de investigación. Respecto a la observación, nos hemos dirigido al Departamento de Lengua Española de la Universidad de Mostaganem, donde hemos sacado 30 trabajos de investigación de 2 especialidades, didáctica y literatura, del año universitario 2021-2022 y 2022-2023. Directamente, entonces, empezamos por la introducción general. Hay el 33% de los 30 trabajos, notamos la introducción no se corresponde con el contenido del trabajo, y además faltan los puntos más importantes de lo que se llama la estado de cuestión, la observación, el interés por el tema, la problemática, la hipótesis, los objetivos, etc. Solamente escribir por escribir. 2 páginas, 3 páginas, pero no figura nada, solamente escribir y ya está. Entonces el estado de cuestión, porque la observación, el interés, los objetivos forman parte del estado de cuestión, que es muy imprescindible, ya que estas etapas facilitan el proceso de investigación y para el lector que le resultan muy fáciles la comprensión del tema y del trabajo mismo. Pasamos luego el tema o bien el título, porque tenemos antes el tema y luego llegamos al título. Tenemos 40% de los estudiantes, el tema es impreciso o escasamente definido, y esto se debe a la observación. Ello engendra consecuencias graves para llevar a cabo su trabajo. Si el estudiante delimita bien su tema que va a tratar y lo reduce bajo la metodología adecuada, también plantea las preguntas necesarias que le van a guiar, nunca va a caer en este tipo de errores. Análisis de los resultados obtenidos. Al final tenemos el 56% de los trabajos estudiados, le falta un estudio más profundo, donde generalmente notamos una interpretación de las cifras y ya está. Esquema del trabajo. Menos de la mitad de los trabajos estudiados notamos que el índice ahora, los conceptos sommer, más o menos no está estructurado bien. Además de eso, los números de los títulos, por eso es preferible que el estudiante tenga más cuidado al elaborar su índice, ya que este va a ser leído al primero y el lector decidirá si va a leer el trabajo o no. Por eso el estudiante debe organizarlo bien y así sucesivamente uno puede notar que ningún título o subtítulo queda suelto. Rápidamente a la conclusión. Entonces hemos comprendido que al plantear un trabajo de investigación es afinar, y el tema de esta jornada, afinar, entonces estructurar más formalmente la idea de investigación, desarrollando 4 elementos: la observación, el proceso de investigación, preguntas de investigación, justificación y delimitación del tema. Los 4 elementos deben ser capaces de guiar a una investigación concreta, así para evitar la cantidad de errores más frecuentes que cometen en el texto o en sus borradores. Esto es, y muchísimas gracias por escucharme.
Muy bien presentación. Okay, maybe you say that. I don't know. Okay, without any delay, we're going to move to the debate panel. Okay, the phase that I like so much. Okay, because at this level you can create a sort of cognitive disequilibrium and try to reflect on all the questions or all the presentations, and we can find some answers to burning questions. So I would like, without any delay, I haven't finished yet. No. Without any delay, I would like to, for the presenters, all the speakers, to join the stage. And for anyone who has got a question, please come to stage. Introduce yourself, your name, and of course your grade and so on. If you're a student, your specialism, whether it's didactics or linguistics or, okay? Thank you. It's live.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, being so interested to what Dr. Bouguessa has presented, I just want a summary in any of the languages that you must, rather than Spanish. You can explain to us briefly what you said, either in Arabic or in French, or that's all. Thank you very much.
مشكور الأستاذ الدكتور خالد بالعربي. قال لك اشرح لي على المداخلة أنا تحدثت على الملاحظة. سي خالد، الملاحظة سي خالد تاع البداية تاع البحث. الطالب مثلا راه يقرأ 5 ans بوندون هذه 5 ans خاصه يشوف واش هي واش المشكله اللي راهي تصادفوا في البحث. خاص الملاحظه مثلا باش نبداو دوك هو سمعت سي خالد. دوك الملاحظه في البدايه قال بلي واش هي المشكله. مثلا انا ديداكتيك مثلا قال لي باغي نخدم على لوغال مثلا مشي المشكله اللي راهي عندي في اللغه. دونك هذه الملاحظه اللي خاص الطالب يلاحظ الاوبسيرفاسيون تري بيان هي اللي تعاونه باش يليميتي البحث تاعو. مثلا قال باغ اكزومبل انا نقرا عند الاستاذ كافي باغ اكزومبل لقيت بلي مثلا انا استاذ مثلا في الثانويه وراني نقرا عنده ماستر بصح ما نعرفش لوتيليزاسيون تاع الموديل. دونك شو انا البروبليم باغ اكزومبل باغي نخدم مع تيس ولا لاستيك ان اسبانيول. دونك كيفاش دونك هذه هي الملاحظه اللي تعاونك في اختيار الموضوع وفي تحديده. دونك هذه هي الاخر باش قمنا حنايا درنا البحث تاعنا النظري راك شفته ومن بعد كنا التطبيقي جمعت لي ميموار اللي كنت انا فيهم مومبر دو جوري في ومن بعد كي نزل لحقنا 30 ميموار. دونك هذيك 30 ميموار اللي لقينا درنا لها دراسه اسكو فيها الملاحظه ولا لقينا قليل حاجه قليله جو بونس 35% اللي هادرين على الملاحظه في الانتروداكسيون تاع الاخرين ما كاش اللي داير باللي لاحظنا مثلا واش. دونك وهذه هي اللي ما تخليش الطالب صديق يليميتي لو تيتر تاع الميموار تاعه. سي بون.
Just a question to Monsieur Belabed. Why you haven't used IA tools translator? Pourquoi vous n'avez pas essayé de traduire par l'intelligence artificielle? Hagda, au moins, on aurait pu. Ça sera plus génial de suivre une telle présentation. C'est-à-dire que c'est disponible.
Normalement.
C'est plus convenable parce qu'il a utilisé un outil
فوالا نورمالمون. معليش سي اون انفيتاسيون باش كاع الناس تقرا الاسبانيول تتعلم الاسبانيول. وي هذه هي. دونك باسكو حنا تاع الاسبانيول ديجا راه عندنا شويه ديفيكولتي في لونجلي دونك سي خالد كل واحد يتعلم الاسبانيول. فوالا وي جو سي بيان سور راهم كاينين بلال
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. I have one burning question for the audience and our dear teachers. The question is, what if our research topic is interdisciplinary? Because I'm thinking about something that is between, I think all of them. Yeah, I would like to take wisdom from all of our teachers. Yeah, the question is, what if our research topic is interdisciplinary? How can we deal with it? For example, if it's between didactics and psychology. Okay, I could be more precise. For example, when writing the dissertation, there are normally 3 chapters. Like, is it one chapter about didactics, the theories, and another chapter for the psychological part, or is it I should mix everything?
I would like to thank the student for his valuable question. I will try to answer him, of course, the use of what is commonly known as being interdisciplinarity in making research. So concerning, and you have mentioned 2 disciplines which are didactics and psychology. Even you have to bear in your mind that didactics and psychology can never be separated from each other, which are commonly referred to as psychopedagogy. And of course, here I am going to give you another topic which is purely linguistics, in which we have to, or those who are specialized in linguistics can collaborate with those who are, of course, specialized in what is called computational sciences. So if we speak, or Dr. Kafi spoke about a very important aspect in at least formatting, just the form. He spoke just about the form, how we can form a dissertation. But what about analyzing the content? What about analyzing the content? For instance, as I am a linguist, I need an expert in computing sciences in order to design a software package, in order to analyze and in order to deconstruct language. Since I can't, I have what is called the theoretical, and I know many notions, many definitions concerning the linguistic and the socio-linguistic, of course, field of research, in which I can't, of course, use those technological means in order to deconstruct language. This is why I am obliged in order to do it manually. So I need another person from another discipline in order to help me, of course, analyzing the content of any speech or any written language. I hope that I answered your question.
You're not bound to a structure to separate the structure of your chapters according to the fields. It's not an absolute rule. What is the absolute rule is linking the eclectic expression in your dissertation to the purpose of your dissertation. All right? So the purpose leads you towards an organization of your dissertation. You're not bound to that separation. That's it.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. I'm a Master 2 English student specialized in English didactics, and since I'm a novice teacher, I want to address my question to Dr. Sahli. You've mentioned that, concerning the action research. According to Whitehead 2001, often action research live in social context where values are prized in a principle but denied in a practice. My question is, how can action research navigate social contexts where values are apparently esteemed in a principle but they are frequently disregarded in a practice? Yeah.
Here my approach is that when we speak about the theoretical aspects in, for instance, in didactics, when we have the module of, for instance, didactics of English as a foreign language or educational psychology, we are always praising the theoretical aspect. That means that, for instance, we say that formative assessment can advance learning. We say that formative assessment can advance learning. Formative assessment, for instance, can work hand in hand with summative assessment. We can say that summative assessment can provide teachers with data about the students' learning, weaknesses, strengths. But in reality, no one is implementing formative assessment in their daily practice. Why? Because formative assessment is very demanding and it requires what we call commitment. This is on one hand. When we speak about formative assessment, for instance, here we have two parts. We can speak about formative assessment as the practice of formative assessment, and of course the ultimate goal, which is the advancement and the improvement of the student as being an active agent in the language classroom. We speak about the value of self-assessment, but if we ask teachers about their ultimate goal, is it to help the students improve learning or cover the syllabus? Most of the time we find that what we are interested in is to cover the syllabus and of course to advance summative assessment rather than formative assessment. Yeah. I will just give you a very brief example. For instance, when we speak about the student self-assessment, for instance, I can identify any weaknesses in the writing classroom. So the first stage is that you identify the problem. When you go home, for instance, you reflect on your own performance as a teacher and the performances of your own students. Then, of course, you need to obtain the data to identify their needs. And here, when I speak about the needs, here we have multiple needs. Sometimes we have behavioral needs. We have learning needs. When we speak about the needs, they can be, for instance, problem with the language, problems with the skill, problem with time management, problems with transferable skills. So here we have many multiple issues in the language classroom. Then, for instance, identifying all of these needs of the student, then taking the data, analyzing the data, and then finding the tools on how to address those problems, then thinking about the plan to be executed in the language classroom, then analyzing the data to see whether they achieved the ultimate goal of improving the learning or not. This will take huge time compared with the timetable in which you need to cover the syllabus that is imposed by the Ministry of Higher Education. Do you think that in this very situation, of course, there is a contradiction between the theory of appraising formative assessment and the reality of implementing formative assessment? So this is why action research, the majority of the teachers, for instance, when I was working on the implementation of formative assessment and self-assessment in the writing classroom, I could highlight only one study. Even in the American context, I'm speaking not only about the Algerian context, I could identify one study about the implementation of formative assessment and self-assessment in the Spanish classroom in the South of America. And when we evaluate America, America has a very advanced educational system, let alone in Algeria. So have you seen that the practice of action research is not something that can be done easily, and which requires, as I have said, a teacher to be open-minded, to have a plan, and to be committed, and to have, most of the time to practice all of these concepts in the language.
Yeah,
also.
thank you so much. I just want to highlight how you consider the shift between, how novice teachers should navigate the social context, moving to the real situations. I would love if you provide us, novice teacher with a real situation where the action research help in navigating social context and in the real situations.
Yes, later on.
Okay, thank you so much.
I will just give you a piece of advice. Just read my PhD dissertation. You have all the details.
Okay, I just want to thank Dr. Moulai Yacine for having us here and giving us the opportunity to share our ideas, and thank you so much.
So you can also leave your question within comments, so we can answer you later on. You can leave your questions within the comments in live there in Facebook.
Good afternoon. My name is Mohamed. I'm a Master 1 Linguistics student. And first of all, before asking my question, I would like to thank our professors, our lecturers, and our moderators for organizing this day. I'm sure I can represent all of my classmates when I say we really appreciate you helping in building our skill in research, especially with what's coming next year, inshallah. My question actually is for all of you, if you don't mind. Ms. Sahli has said that personal experience surely shapes our skill in researching. My question is, could you please, every single one of you, tell us something that their personal experience taught them that books and researchers don't tell? A personal experience that has helped you in your skills. And thank you. Sorry? If anyone would like to answer, they're all, researchers, and we all look up to you.
Personal experience? I would say that my personal experience shapes my research, because the start. Look, I will just tell you something very important. When I was a student, magister student at the University of Sidi Bel Abbas, I had my teacher of sociolinguistics, and he has said that every single day when you walk in the streets, you should have, let's say, a sort of notebook. Mainly when you are working, when you are in the bus, when you are washing the dishes, there are ideas that come to your minds. So the idea for my PhD was inspired by my first year student. I was a part-time teacher in this very department. And then I have found that my group 3, they had huge difficulties in the writing skill. And at the same time, I was struggling about helping them how to be, let's say, proficient writers. And from this very moment, as a teacher who was also struggling on how to help them. So at this very moment, I had the idea of implementing formative assessment. I had the idea in 2013, and I implemented the idea in 2018, because it took me 3 years thinking about the intervention plan. Because when we speak about action research, here the idea is that you should design a plan, and you should implement the plan that should be an ongoing plan. And let's say the concept that would help me to implement the plan is assessment, particularly formative and self-assessment, because these two notions have the ability of reconstruction and refreshment, and at the same time, of course, reflection and implementation. So my inspiration was from the writing class. Thank you so much.
Okay, and now we come to an end. I think a happy end, isn't it? It is. Okay. Thank you all for the teachers, for the speakers, for our students, for this contribution. Okay. For their contribution for this study day, and believe you me, that research methodology cannot be taught or learned at the level of theory, I mean in the classroom. It is a craft. You have to practice it a lot, so that you develop the skill. It is through practice, learning by doing. At that time, you will be skillful at research methodology, because you reflect on your practice through error and trial, and at that time, you will learn how to choose, how to select your method, your research topic, and so on. Thank you all. And now it's time for lunch. The bottom, the bottom layer of Maslow pyramid. For our students, please, you can leave your comments, your questions